welcome in new Chief of Staff and Director of Ops for the University of Hawaii football program, Matt Chon. Matt, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So as we know, like you're to put it loosely, you're kind of like a young kid in like this position and something that we're not used to seeing. And I love that. So I just wanted to invite you on for our audience to kind of get to know a little bit more about you and your background. So first things first, man, where you're from, what school did you go to? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about your playing career as well.
Yeah, of course. So I'm not from the islands. A lot of people have mistaken that, and they see me first sight. And I look the part, but once I start talking, you can kind of tell, and that's when a lot of people go, "Yeah, you're not from here," and it's completely fine. So I'm learning the culture and everything. But originally from Sacramento, California, born and raised. Went to a little small high school called East Nicholas High School. Graduating class of like 72, I think, and we had 400 kids all together. So it was I lived the small school experience. Played football in high school, and then when I graduated, I ended up going to American River College, playing there. I was there for 2 years. I grade my first year and played my second year. During that stretch, I kind of was in the process of trying to figure out where to go next and if I wanted to keep playing in X, Y, and Z. And then ended up, there was a poll process that happened. I won't get too much into it, but I was supposed to go to one school out in Chicago, and some things fell through and ended up coming back, not going out there. But I graduated from junior college with my AAs and needed to leave. I didn't want to stay a third year and kind of just ride it out. And for me, I always knew football wasn't going to be my career, but I wanted to play as long as I could. I grew up loving the game and loved being a part of it, being a part of the team, and just being in the locker room with everyone. So then ended up finishing out at ARC, and then I went down to a little D3 school down in Southern California called the University of Laverne. When I was talking to them, had no idea where Laverne was. I thought it was somewhere out in the Midwest, and I looked it up and I go, wait, SoCal, hold on, this might be something. I get to live down in Southern California, and I mean, a lot of people have that dream of living down there and wanting to be down near LA and San Diego and all the beaches. And I was a little bit further out, but it was still Southern California for me, and I still had the opportunity to play football, so I took that. And it, again, a little D3 to where I was like, okay, I can go out there, play football, have fun, and kind of just enjoy life. And then things kind of took a turn. I broke my scaphoid my first week there. And that kind of is a big process. It's one of the worst bones to break in your body, one of the hardest ones, I think, in your hand, I think, if I remember. But it also is the one that takes the longest. So I was in a full arm cast, a giant purple cast for 8 weeks, and then got out of that one, and they put me in a little wrist one. But I ended the season before I could play, and then ended up coming back fine, going to through winter workouts perfectly fine, and then second day spring ball, I tear my ACL. And so,
oh no,
big religious guy, and I kind of took that as a sign, like, all right, well, God's telling you something. Like, there's a reason why it happened back-to-back years. And to be honest, I didn't play a single down of football out there. And again, I look back at it now as one of the best choices that I made to go down there, because everything happens for a reason. And with that being said, I kind of started looking into life after football. And that was when I kind of started to learn more about the support staff off the field roles compared to coaching. And that was where I think I fell in love with it. I was like, oh, well, like, I can be working recruiting, be an NFL scout, this, that. So I kind of took that into account going into my senior year. Like I said, tore my ACL spring ball. So I still wanted to be a part of the team, was kind of helping out wherever I could, helping out coach, doing all these things. But in the back of my head, I kind of was starting to look into recruiting, operations, personnel, all that stuff. But then an opportunity presented itself where my old offensive coordinator, Coach Wursel, he left to Akron, but he reached out, and I mean, he's originally from the UK, and he put me in contact with one of his buddies out there who coached, and it gave me the opportunity to continue to play football overseas in a different country. And in my head, I said, you know what, this is a sign too. All right, I'm going overseas. And I ended up following through with that. I rehabbed all that, went through the whole process, physical therapy, got cleared, was ready to play. That wasn't until October of 2020 to to go out there. And so I graduated January 2020. So there's that
Oh
little gap
no.
in between where I was like, I got to do something. Like I just need to work. I can work out, get it ready, whatever. So I took a job as a personal banker, financial advisor. And to
Oh.
be completely honest with you, I hated every minute of it. It was a good opportunity. I mean, it was it was your typical 9 to 5, 8 to 4, good pay, weekends off, vacation, everything right, your typical job. And I thought that was for me. I tried to separate myself away from football and see if I like Matt Chon outside. And it was just every day where I was like, there's this thing called the football scoop, and that's where a lot of people post jobs and you see where people are getting hired. And every day at work, I found myself scrolling through it, and I'm like, well, you have a job, Matt. You're gonna go play football for England. You just need to make it through. Um, like I said, I hated it, and it's the honest truth. And then I was just like, I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to be a quitter. That was my mentality. So luckily enough, I just had to get through October. And so October came. Ended up going out to England. Um, Ended up the first month was fine. COVID was like at its low point, and then November comes around, and that was that second spike last year or 2020. And then we got put in lockdown. They're like, "You're going to lockdown for a month," and I was like, "All right, well, it's just a month. Hopefully, it's not like the U.S. where 1 month turns into 6 months and all
Yeah.
that." And so um, I met at the time one of my roommates. His name was Ivan, and he was from Boston, and so he was my quarterback out there, and we lived together. And we're looking at each other like, all right, it's just a month, we'll be good. And then we get out of that lockdown 2 days into freedom, right? They announced like, okay, we're going back into another lockdown. And I looked at it right then and there. I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not going to play a back and forth lockdown game. And so that was the beginning of December. And then that was when I kind of was like, all right, if I'm going back, I need to go do something. I need to do what I want to do. So I started reaching out to people that were working in player personnel, recruiting, operations, and just trying to get a feel for like, how do I get my foot in the door? Again, small
Mm-hmm.
school kid, didn't have those connections where I could go. I had the opportunity to work in a Division 1 recruiting department or support staff. And so a lot of people have reached back out, and I did a lot of LinkedIn connecting and sending messages and just asking for advice. And every single person told me the same thing. It was, you got to get your foot in the door some way, somehow, working
Mm-hmm.
for free, doing X, Y, and Z. Like you just got to make your way in. And that's what I did. So I started reaching out to people. I started emailing schools to kind of tell them, hey, I want to work for free. I just want to learn. And I promise you, it was probably around 40, 45 schools that I emailed.
Wow.
And again, I'm not the only one doing this. Everybody else is doing the same thing because, again, this is one of the best things that people want to do is work in sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are 3 schools that reached back out to me, and 2 of them were in California. It was Sac State and UC Davis. But again, during that stretch, it was one of those ones where it was kind of like COVID was a thing, and they couldn't bring people on, or it was just like kind of like it just didn't feel like the right opportunity. And one of my best friends, he goes to UNR, and they had a roommate that was moving out at the time, and so they needed someone to replace him. They're like, just come live with us and da da this and da da that. I'm like, why am I going to go up there just to live there? And they're like, dude, just reach out to UNR or Nevada.
Yeah.
Sorry, they don't like it when you call them UNR. It's Nevada. That's my fault. Didn't remember that. But during that stretch, I reached out to them. I emailed both guys, both directors out there, and I didn't get a response at first. And I told them, I was like, well, I emailed, like I can't really do anything else, like I don't have the opportunity to walk in there. And his other roommate at the time, Michael Samples, he was dating this girl that was a strength and conditioning assistant on the staff for football, and didn't know her. I didn't know a single thing about her. She didn't know me. I knew her name. Her name's Hope. And they told her, they're like, hey, like our buddy wants a job, like he wants to intern, like can you help him out? And again, didn't know a single thing about me. She took with what they said, and ran with it. And she went in there and told Lucas Gauthier, the director of player personnel there. He was like, hey, I got a friend, like one of my closest friends. He's a super good worker, da da this, da da that, like sold me. Took a shot in the dark, didn't know a thing about
Wow.
me. And that opened up the door for me. And like I said, didn't know her, but she's one of my closest friends now. Talk to her all the time, and just that just opened the door for me. Again, I wouldn't be here without that. Um, and so Lucas kind of calls me up and starts to feel me out. And again, he presented me with the opportunity, and I took it. It was one of those ones where he tried to scare me away, and we always joke about this, and I always will tell him, like, he on the phone, he was like, well, we're not going to feed you, we're not going to give you anything, like, this is solely just an opportunity for you to learn, and I'm going to teach you everything that you want to know and put you in an opportunity to grow. And I was like, that's all I needed. I just need somewhere to work. And so that, fast forward a little bit, March 10th of last year was my first day ever in college football. Showed up
Wow.
there on pro day and didn't, I was the kid walking in there going, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what did I get myself into? And going into there, I mean, that changed my life. Again, I met a lot of good people. God put me in a good spot with some really good circumstances at the end of the day. And that first day, I always joke about it too. And when people ask, like, okay, well, like, where are you from? Where did you meet Timmy? Like, how long have you known him? And
Yeah.
I go, oh, well, a year now. Like, we're coming up on a year. And it's one of those ones. And again, just since day one, I've been able to those guys welcome me with open arms, and again, presenting me with opportunities to grow and learn. And Coach Chang, one of the first things, he looked at me from down the hall, and he kind of like looked at me, had a smile on, and he was like, we got another Asian kid in the office, and like, we're good, right? Because we're in Nevada, and like the minority thing, right? So since then, kind of became my like self-proclaimed dad, and this has been one of my biggest fans. Not, again, the Asian part might have played a part, but no, he kind of saw my potential since day one, and he's been one of my biggest fans. And even throughout early on, he's always said it. He's like, you're gonna do big things, and kind of had his faith in me, even when, again, like early on, I didn't know what I was doing, and I kind of was just learning the ropes of it and everything. And like I said, I was started out as a recruiting intern there. Um, and kind of took that as an opportunity. And I always say, like, I'll bet on myself any day of the week, and I'll go in there and be the hardest worker and do anything and everything that's needed. And did that for a while. And then in August of last year, um, my life changed again. Even in that same year, is again, like I said, I was recruiting and turning in my head. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna work as long as I can for free, because that's just what it is. Like, that's just
Hmm.
the nature of the beast. And I'll cross bridges when I get there. And Jay Sean Sykes, the DFO there, um, he went out of his way for me, and kind of saw the potential in me too, and was kind of gave credit where credit was due. And he kind of saw it from the back, and he took a chance on me, and he put me on, and they started paying me a little bit, and it was more than enough to pay for rent and everything. And for me, that was huge. Like I said, I had a plan on
Hmm.
my plan was to be an intern for a year, and then hopefully work into a paid position, and then just work my way up from there. And he took it upon himself to kind of reward me for it. And again, that wasn't something I was expecting. Forever grateful for that man. And I mean, he's put me in some situations too, to kind of see where I was really at. Like, all right, well, Matt
Hmm.
Chon says he's about this, like, he's about it. And then did that for going through that past season. I kind of did a swing. I was doing a little bit of recruiting and operations. And then the end of the season is where things kind of got crazy. And so
Yeah.
um, our defensive coordinator, Brian Ward, again, like every coach out there, I love, developed relationship, first home, first coaching staff, first everything. Um, I developed a really good relationship with him, and he got a job at Washington State, and he offered me a job at Washington State. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know how to go about it. And everyone else can attest to this. Like, they could tell. Like, I was asking, I was like, dude, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I hadn't been through this before, right? And so I went through that, and then a whole process happened to where I think at the end of the day, I was going to end up staying at Nevada, because I wanted to stay with that coaching staff. And then Colorado, and then Coach Norvell, again, I will continue to say it, I did not get here by myself. Everybody put me in good spots and good situations. And Coach Norvell came back, and he was like, well, like, I don't want you to go. Like, I want you here. And
Oh.
again, I'm forever grateful for everybody that's been a part of my career, my short career so far. But everyone has made it hard for me to kind of like make these decisions, because everyone's just, again, welcomed me in, and I love being a part of it. And So at the end of the day, I was going to stay there. And then he gets the job at Colorado State, and he's like, well, I want you to come with me. And I was like, yes, like by all means, like I'm going, and all that. And that was the stretch for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this industry is crazy. You don't know what's going to happen. And so we, a couple of us stayed back to help Nevada out with the bowl game, because that the coaching staff at Colorado State at the time had to go recruit, and it was a fast turnaround during that stretch. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got thrown into the fire. But again, all good things. And it was one of those ones where it was like, all right, we have a bowl game. And in my head, I'm like, I have never been through a bowl game in my life. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what's going on. Did this, did that. And I'm like sitting there, and Vital takes over as the interim head coach, and he's like, you're my guy. And he's like, you're my guy, whatever you need, da this, da that. I'm like, all right, well, this is, I've always said I wanted to be CFO, but I didn't think it'd be this early. And so it was a really good experience, really good situation. And again, crazy things. This has been one of the craziest years of my life. I will say that. And so I'm going through this bowl game, right? And we're just kind of just trying to feel things out and get settled. And during that stretch, they hired the new head coach, Coach Ken Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in, and again, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to Colorado State. I'm going to go be whatever I'm doing over there. And so I just need to get through this bowl game, and I'm on my way to Fort Collins. And Coach Wilson made that hard because, again, a really good guy. Loved him. He took a shot on me. He didn't know a single thing about me other than what people told him. And again, I appreciate everybody out there that went out and sit on the table for me and put me in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first conversation with him, we're talking, and like we're just, again, first conversation ever. And I'm asking him about himself. He's asking about me. And I just am kind of just going through it. Like I just love talking to people, meeting people. And so we're just having a conversation, and I'm like sitting there, and in my head, I walked out of that conversation going, does it sound like he's about to offer me the director of operations job? And so I walk out of there, and I'm like, no way. And I was like, during that stretch, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready. Like, I don't think I'm like, because again, that happening to me should not have happened. And so we're working, right? And then I have another conversation with him, and he offers me the DFO job. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, I laughed. Like, I was like, because it was just a real thing. It was like, do you actually like, and I told him this straight up. I was like, Coach, I don't think I'm ready. I think I have a lot to learn. And I don't want to put you in a situation where you look back and you go, yeah, I shouldn't have hired this kid. And that was my biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want my shot to be one of those ones where people look at it going, yeah, he wasn't ready. And on paper, it looks like I'm not ready. But in my head, for me, from a mental standpoint, I was ready. It just took me a little convincing to tell myself to take that leap of faith. And again, I had a lot of good people around me that I talked to, a lot of my like my previous bosses and just people I've met throughout. Like they saw it, that I was capable of doing it, and Coach Chang too, especially. He was like, he told me too, and I would talk to him all the time. Like, Coach, what do I do? Do I go to Colorado State? Do I go to Washington State? Do I stay here? And he's like, look, if they offer you that job, you have to take it. And he said that way before they had even offered me that job, and he saw it before it even happened, which is the crazy
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so he offered me the job, and in my head, like I said, I didn't think I was ready. And I told him, Coach Wilson, that, and I told everybody else that. And it was just the honest truth. Like I didn't want to lie to myself. And it was one of those ones where everyone was like, Matt, like you have to take it. Like Jay Sean, I heard to him too. He would look at me and go, Matt, 6 months ago you told me that you wanted to be a DFO, and look, 6 months later you have the opportunity to do it, and now you're running from it. And it was a
Yeah.
lot of me like, I was scared. And throughout the bowl game, I was running around with my head cut off 100%, but it was an experience that I needed, and it put me through some situations where I realized I was ready. I realized I was capable of doing it. And so on the way back home from Detroit, on the plane ride, I knew like where my heart was at. Um, and then sat on it that next morning, and I actually talked to Coach Chang that morning, and a couple other people, Vince Hug and everyone. And I kind of told them where I was at, and everyone was kind of like, head in the right direction. You are capable of doing it and everything. And that was December 28th. And on that day, Coach Chang actually told me, he was like, he's like, you have to take that job as much as I want you to come out here and work, but just know we'll work together soon. Like we'll work together again in the future. This industry's crazy. You don't know where you're gonna end up, right? And he was like, just know when I get my shot that you're gonna be my guy. And surely enough, 3 weeks later, the whole thing happens and the whole everything played out to where I'm sitting in my desk at Nevada going, dude, am I gonna have to go to Hawaii? And obviously it wasn't one where I wanted to jump the gun and
Yeah.
go where I'm going, but in my head mentally I was preparing for it, in terms of like, am I gonna have to pack up and leave? And surely enough, his name gets thrown in the hat and everything. And we had some conversation, but it was never about him taking the job or anything. It was just him checking up, like, hey, what do you like? How's everything going? Are you doing good? I knew you would kill it. And it was just genuine conversation. And I think Saturday, I forget what date it was. Let me look because this is funny because we're in the middle of an official visit dinner. I think it was January 19th. No, January 22nd, I think was the date. And we're sitting at an official visit dinner, and I don't have my phone. Well, I do, but I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
As we're walking out of the dinner, I pull out my phone and I got text messages, like text message after text message after text message. And some of my buddies are sending me like Lilo and Stitch gifts and hula dancers and all that. And I'm like looking at my phone, I'm like, what's going on? And he looks at it, or I look at it and I'm like, all my people, everyone is just like, because they know where I was at and the relationship I have, and they're like, "Are you going to Hawaii?" And does this? I'm like, I haven't even talked to him yet. Like,
Everyone else jumped the gun.
yeah, I'm like, all right, hold up now, maybe I want to stay here. But um, I went and had a conversation with him that night, and he knows who I am as a person, and he kind of was like, I'm offering you the job. You have a week to think about it. Da da this, da da that. And at the end of the day, in my heart, I always knew, I always knew, told myself like I would go work for this man in a heartbeat. And like I said, Saturday night was a crazy night because I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, what am I gonna do? And also Sunday we had the kids report, like we had a team meeting
Oh
for
man.
Nevada and we are finishing official visits. So I'm like, I can't think about this right now. Like I got to do my job right now. And so Sunday I kind of sat on it and I didn't really think too much about it. It didn't really cross my mind. And like I said, at the end of the day, I think I knew the choice I was going to make. And Monday morning comes and I kind of reached back. I didn't talk to him Sunday. I knew he was busy with everything, but I also wanted to take time to myself. And that was one of the first times where I didn't really tell anybody about an opportunity that presented. I was like, I need to go through this myself. And luckily enough, I just went through it 3 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
just went through. And so um, Monday came and I talked to him a little bit more about it. And he offered me the chief of staff position. And for me, backtrack a little bit, I always, when people ask me, what do you want to do? It was being a chief of staff at the end of the day. Chief of staff and long term, if I stay in college football, if I make the jump to the NFL, the end goal is to be an NFL GM. And
Awesome.
so for him to kind of give me that opportunity and the experience, and for him to kind of take that chance on me and put his trust in me to be his right hand man, I really sat there and I wish that like I texted him because I was like, okay, well, if I'm the DFO, who's going to be the chief of staff? And he was like, you. And I was like, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm like looking at my phone, I'm like, wait, really? And then like, it was kind of like a feeling where it was a surreal thing where I'm sitting there and I go, am I really about to be a chief of staff as a 24-year-old? And I get it. Like some people, like titles are titles, right? And you can give a title to whoever, but again, the responsibility and for him to put his trust in me,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why not? All right. And so I called him back that day, and again, like I wanted to, again, I get attached to places and people and develop these relationships, and so I'm sitting at Nevada and I'm going, dude, like I don't know if I like trying to convince myself to like find a reason not to go, not
Mm-hmm.
to like get out of it, but for one of the ones where I was like Nevada was home. And again, Coach Wilson gave me my opportunity. He opened that door for me to, again, he took a chance on me that Coach Chang took a chance on. It just happened to, again, be a different circumstance and everything. And right after I get off the phone call with Coach Chang, tell him I'm going, I promise you, like 2 minutes later, another school reached out and called and offered me a job as the director of recruiting. He's like, "Do you want to be the director of recruiting?" And I go, "I just took a chief of staff job at Hawaii." And he goes, "All right, well, how about for this amount of money?" And I sat there and I was like, "Holy!" And for that second, I was kind of, because again, it just, that stretch that's happened to me this past few months has been insane. My story has been kind of a crazy one, and hopefully it happens to more people. But it's just a testament to, like, if you go and put your head down and work and be a
Hmm.
good person and just do what you want to do, things will pay off. And like I said, so like that stretch happened. I'm sitting there at my desk. I'm like, I sit back in my thing and I just like, my door's open and I just am like staring up at the wall, and someone comes in and they're like, "Are you good?" And I go, "Yeah, I think so." And surely enough, I during that stretch, I called Coach Wilson and let him know and everything, and started to let everyone know in that building that I was going to be leaving. And it was sad, but it was good conversations. It was like everyone was like, "No, like we're excited for you. It's a hell of an opportunity. We thought we'd be able to keep you for a little bit." I always remember that Coach Mastro. I loved him. And again, I was only with those guys for 3 weeks, and
Hmm.
I loved working with every single one of them. And I kind of miss him, but he said it. He was like, "Man, I thought we were gonna get to keep you for at least a year, but dang, 3 weeks, dude! Like,
Yeah, that was
come
quick.
on." And again, everyone, like, it was a good feeling leaving, because again, everyone was like, "No, like go, like that's an opportunity of a lifetime. Like go take it. Like we wouldn't try to keep you here, and go out there and do big things." And like I said, at the end of the day, like this industry is crazy. You can work with the same people you worked with at a school two schools ago, and you don't know where you're gonna end up, who's gonna call you and offer you your next job, and who you're gonna call and offer a job to. And again, it's been surreal. It's been crazy, but long-winded. I know. I apologize, but
No, this is an incredible story. I mean, I invited you on for people to hear your story. They don't want to hear me talk right now. We want to hear all about you. So this is, don't
yeah,
worry about it. Keep going. This is amazing. And it's
yeah,
inspirational,
mhm,
like especially because I was the exact same way. Like you just put your head down. Do you have a
yeah.
lot of experience? Not really, but how am I supposed to
Nothing.
get experience if you don't put me to the test?
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's like one of those things to where I can tell the story all the time, and I love telling it, but I also hate it because I feel like I'm talking about myself so much. But it's it's an opportunity to, like, it's an inspirational story at the end of the day, where people, like I was a year ago, where they're reaching out to me now asking me, "Hey, like, how did you do this? How did you do that? Or what was your process of doing that?" And a year ago, if you'd asked me if I had to be in this position, in all honesty, no, I don't think I would be. I didn't know how things were going to play out or what was going to happen. But again, I'll be the first to say it. God put me in a good spot. I didn't get here by myself. And the list goes on and on of who I can put on that list of who's helped me get to where I can be, from the little things to the small things. And Lucas, Colton, all of them, like they took a chance on me and put me in situations. And it's surreal. And I will say this, life's been so crazy that I haven't actually sat there and I can say it, like, oh, I'm a chief of staff, or I was DFO and all these things, and I'm in the positions that I am. But I'm still waiting for that moment where, like, that genuine hit where it's like, no, you're in the position you are right now. Like, it's not a dream. It's not like, and I look at it some ways where I go, yeah, some people, you throw luck in there, like whatever you
Yeah.
determine luck is. Like I definitely had good circumstances, but like I said, I'll bet on myself any day of the week. But it's a thing where it's just crazy, and again, I can't put it into words. And I mean, you can tell right now, like it's just like when I think about it, it's just so many emotions run through my head, and I'm like, I'm here, like I'm looking out at Diamond Head, right,
I
and
know.
the stadium and everything, and it's just a surreal thing to be in this position at the end of the day. And yeah.
Have you been to Hawaii before this?
No, oh yeah, so I actually came this past summer of
Oh,
21,
okay.
in July. I was like, that stretch where from March to June, I was like, what did I get myself into? What am I doing? And they're like, well, you get a month off. And I was like, we get a month off? All right, bet. And so me and one of my friends, Carissa, we came out here, first ever time being in Hawaii. And
Wow.
for about a week. And we just talked the other day. She's actually coming out here for spring break. But they we on the way back to the airport, we were in the shuttle and we were like, dude, why are we leaving right now? Like, let's just let's change the flight and just stay again. And so did I think I would be here after that? No, 6 months ago, you'd ask me, I would be in Nevada. And it's just crazy how things work out. But now this is second time being back in Hawaii, and you can't beat it. You live in paradise. Like you have anything and everything. Like it's what, 80 degrees right now? Where else are you gonna find 80 degrees in January, February, March? Like it's crazy.
And it's pretty much like this all year round. So
yeah.
and it's good. At least the second time around, like now you get to really be engulfed in the culture, because a lot of like half the staff are local, or at least played for the University of Hawaii. So that has got to be like pretty fun for you.
Yeah, they've all opened the doors and they all joke about how we're not from here and make fun of our how we say things. And so they took it upon themselves to be our official teachers of the Hawaiian culture and how things are pronounced and where we should be and all that. So it's been nice. I mean, they brought us in. I love the staff just overall, and it's just the dynamic of it. It's one of those ones where you look at it and you go, this it's a fun thing to be a part of. And that just adds to it, because then they can joke at us about like, say that one more time, and then everyone starts to laugh.
That's so funny. That's such a Hawaii thing. I don't know why we do that to like people from the mainland, like, oh, say this, or have they put you like made you try like some of the different foods, or maybe some things you have tried already. Anything so new?
we just have been going like Coach Chang, like we've been running around doing these meetings and going to these fundraising events and everything, and we'll stop and grab lunch, and he goes, you ever had a manapua and stuff like that? And I go, no, not really.
Wait, how do you say that again? Not just kidding.
Manapua. I think I pronounced it right? But, no, so he's in just showing me the ropes of this place and other staff, and a lot of these guys, like they care for us, and they're like, hey, like you guys eat, and then they hand us this, and it's the first time you've ever looked at it, and you're like, what is this? And they say, and you're like, wait, how do you say that? And it ends up being one of the best things ever.
Yeah.
We're getting there. And I think Jim O'Davis, our defensive analyst, just said this the other day. He's like, I've never tried so many new different foods up until this point. Like, I don't even know what I'm eating half the time.
Have you tried any, like, what are some things that look weird? Or maybe like taco poke or squid luau, any of those types of things yet? Not yet.
No, not yet. I don't think we've gotten there yet. We haven't tried the squid yet. But I did grow up on like the dried squid, right? I don't know what you guys call it.
Oh, yeah.
But I grew up eating that. But I saw it the other day at the store, and it was a nostalgic feeling. So I was like, wait, I grew up eating it. I haven't had it in like 10 years, maybe longer than that. But I saw it and I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. And I didn't buy it, but I might get around to trying it again.
That has been awful. Oh my gosh. Oh sheesh, we're just about out of time this time around, but I can imagine we're gonna check in with you quite often throughout the year, and especially like or maybe after spring ball and then heading into fall. It's a good time, and I know a lot of the fans are really excited to have all of you guys here, and I'm sure they're laughing, like hearing how the local coaches are doing with, because that's such a Hawaii thing. I don't know why we do that. It's like it's all in love though. So
it's out of love. It's fun. It's a fun experience. Maybe give me a year and then I'll be the guy doing that to the new guys that come in.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Matt Chon, Chief of Staff, Director of Ops for the University of Hawaii football program. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.